I guess it's on. Looks like it's on. How's this? Let's see. There. That should be, I don't know. You can see me, right? Welcome. I'm glad to see all you Sagebrush sketchers over here. Oh, well, I'll deal with that in a little bit. Let's see. Today, we're going to work on this one. Let's see if I can get it in the camera. Okay. It's got some very light trees over here. A couple of looks like aspen trees that have defoliage, no foliage on them down here, and a random tree out in the middle there. I have a little pattern I will show you. You could, we're going to work on a couple things. First of all, I'd like to make this tree a little lighter down in parts of it and a little darker in parts of it. But also, you can move your tree over just a little bit if you'd like. Um, but so we'll practice a little bit of trees and practice a little bit of water and see where we go. All right. Everybody saw that picture, right? Yeah. I'm glad you're here. My name is Spader. Everybody just calls me Spader. And you can find these, of course, under Michael Spader on YouTube. And these are just classes, I'm posting some classes for my students that take a entry level and medium watercolor class. We all have a great time. These classes are for 55 years old and older, although anybody can watch. The humor and the life is kind of focused at that age group. All right, let's get started. I'm going to put up let's see, I'll get the camera going down to the bottom here. Boom, boom. And let me turn this a little bit so the camera can see it better. You want to get a picture of that? I'll leave it up there for 30 or 40 seconds. I've also got my tea. Everybody should have their tea and maybe a friend or two sitting around the kitchen table or wherever you have space out on a park bench. Put it up on your iPad or your cell phone and see if you can paint together. Have some fun with it. All right. I'll give everybody an opportunity to stop the video. Since this is not a live video, uh, you can stop the video and then go ahead and draw it and come back. Or for some people, I guess they will keep on going. This one, I just sketched this one in my book. This book has got some, oh, I'm anxious to do that one I sketched the other day. My wife and I went down to Las Cruces, New Mexico, and there's a Vietnam memorial there. We sketched that one, but we'll talk about that some other time. If everybody's getting ready, hopefully everybody knows by now you need to do a couple of things. Take your brushes, dip them in the water so that they're a little bit damp. They're not crisp and dry. And you need to take a little bit of water and dip it on. I have my water just off camera here. See it there? A little dirty jar, little small mason jar. It's mostly stained down here because I was using dip fountain pens, or dip ink pens, India ink, and on some other work that I was doing. And let's see here, yada, yada, yada. Dip a little water in each one. Mine are pretty wet because I've been working with them. So I'm not too worried about it, but if yours have been dry overnight, you should put a little water in each one of these. Okay. Also, you want to make sure that you have your, this is mine's a Carhartt, yours can be an old t-shirt, anything that's an absorbent cloth works really well. I find some people used to use sponges. You can still use a sponge if you would like. You know, that's a nice little place to dab your brush off in. And you may want to have a spare piece of tissue, like from Kleenex or a roll, along with, I always keep another extra piece of shirt or old shirt there. All right. I'm going to make this one kind of down and dirty pretty quick. Okay. If you will look, the sky is very light, barely there. Okay. So we're going to start off with that. And we're going to avoid, excuse me, going to avoid putting any paint in this tree, these trees here. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But that's the only one. I think we can pretty much go with the sky through this tree. And if you don't want to, you can paint this the way I think we've done it on the internet. I'm not sure if I've broadcast one of these lessons, but you can paint this one with your paint in the lines with your paint, or you can let the paint come out of the lines in a way that I'll show you here. You can do wet into wet, or you can do the sky separately. Put a little in here, a little in all these sky holes, let that dry, and then come back and put the tree. Or you can wet the whole sky and put the tree in as it's kind of drying up, and it will, it kind of blends into the sky, making a soft lost edge. Now mine's not a lost edge because I have the fountain pen there, but you will be doing yours hopefully in a very light pencil or transferring a pattern very lightly, and that lost edge will become lost. So what I'm going to do is first I want to get some blue, some sky ready. So I have some ready, and again, I'm using a very dirty palette. So my sky may be a little bit odd colored there because that palette had some ultramarine blue and some teal in it. The teal's kind of overpowering it. I may put a little more ultramarine blue in here. And most of you from the past have ultramarine blue or French ultramarine. My sky color may be a slightly different because I have light ultramarine in here currently. Just a tube that I had, and I wanted to use it up. So, okay. I think I'm going to try to meld this tree in with some uh, lost edges. And this tree, I'm going to paint the other way exactly in the lines. Okay, just for the fun of it, we'll try that. I'm going to go ahead and have some tree green ready over here. And just using azo. I think this is azo green. And I'm drawing my brush off here, getting the green off of it. I'm going to get a little, oh, there's still some green on there. Try it one more time. And get a little moisture in my sky here. So How are y'all doing? Tell me, what kind of paper in the comments, what kind of watercolor paper are you using? Personally, I think everybody knows that the majority of the time, at least my students know, I use not Fabiano. I'm having a brain aneurysm, a brain fart, a senior moment, one of those many arches, 140 pound, and all cotton, that's the kind I like. I'm going to tip this up just a little bit. Can you still see it there? Let me move the camera just a touch there. How's that? I'm going to come right to the edge of this with my blue. And my blue is really, I think, a little darker than I would have thought I would make it. I'm going a little bit darker here. I'm going to put little dabs of blue in there for where the sky holes are. And a little blue back here where the tree. And now I'm going to take a little bit of this green that I had and just kind of work it into this wet tree. A little bit on the edges, and if I want it to go and be a lost edge, I can put some right over the line. I don't have to stay right there on the line. Of course, like I say, some of you are not necessarily painting with, like I am, or drawing with a fountain pen. I do that, but you certainly don't have to. Now, the big trick to doing it this way, is you want to make sure that it's wet into wet, that both parts of the tree and the sky are wet. I'm losing my sky hole there, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to make a little bit darker mixture here. I might even put in just a touch of blue in there and put just some darker areas down here toward the bottom. Maybe one or two in here. Just let that tree melt away. We'll let that start to dry as it melts in there. I wonder what this looks like on television. I've never seen the television version. I guess I did once or twice, but um, because I broadcast with a television, but it was quite a while ago. I was using a TV to. I'm on a program called OBS. It's a free software thing, I guess. What's it? I don't know what they're called. And but the colors don't come out the same, I don't think. I don't. I can see on the screen, on my screen here, a different color than what I have here. So, oh well. It is, as they say, it is what it is. Okay, I'm going to mix up a much larger bit of green here, quite a bit. And I'm going to put just a little bit of yellow for my base color of all of this grassy field. Okay, let's see if I showed you that. Okay, the grassy field. See, on my screen, that looks kind of khaki, closer to yellow ochre. And here on the page, it's a yellowish green. So you have to decide, I guess. You want yours to be fall, winter, spring. How do you want your grass to look? I'm going to put just a touch of lemon yellow in my green here, just to, I want some pretty light green to start with. And I'm just going to fill in most of the area here. This is a quick little painting. It's not hard. It's probably, if you practice it a few times, because it doesn't have to exactly match mine, and because it's a funny thing, if we do human beings and cars sometimes, it's very difficult because we really anticipate exactly what it should look like in our minds. But with landscapes, a lot of times it's much easier because you don't have to make yours look exactly like mine. You're the boss of it. Remember, you're the boss of your painting. So it can look the way you want it to. Now, I didn't do it, but you can leave some grass in here that's dry brushed. I'm not going to do that on this particular one. The sketch. This is a little bit darker down here, darker color. Just that it was thicker in my palette there. And while you're going along, you don't have to wait like I did till the end here. You can do it while you're painting. But you can start to add some movement, some characters. So the way to do that is take a little of your ultramarine blue, just a dab, and put it in some of this green. So we can start to add some light areas that have some kind of movement in them. Maybe start putting in the fact that there is shadow under these trees. You know, it doesn't have to be finished. Remember, we're going to revisit all these areas. We're just putting in a little bit and letting it kind of fade in there. Okay. Doesn't have to be the whole thing, doesn't have to be a lot of it. You don't have to do as much as I am, or you could do more. And I'm going to put a little darker over here on this side. I want this side with a little bit of darker in it because this side, it's pretty empty space over there for a 5x7. Now remember, when I'm playing with this stuff, I'm drying my brush off a little bit so that I'm just picking up just little teeny bits of it. While you're doing that, I think I'm going to have a candy. Wow, delicious, but a little tart. Okay. While this is all drying up, we can look at the rocks that are in the water. Notice that the rocks have a white top on them. Okay, when we do the rocks, we want to be sure and try and leave a little bit of a white area on the very top. So if my green is still too wet, which it might be, this is a tough one to get just right. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and put in and let them dry. This sky hole here, I could have put that in right away when I was doing the sky. These are a little bit darker here. And with that, no, on that note, I'm going to take a little bit of ultramarine blue, mix it into my sky color, and a little bit of burnt umber. See if I have a test piece here. Get a little more burnt umber put in there. See just how this looks. That's not too bad for this mountain in the background here should be a neutralized, it's called. You put a little burnt umber in it. So it's bluish, but it's not a bright blue. It's a more of a gray with a little that leans toward the bluish side. Okay, it's tinted toward, or as I used to say, twisted to the bluish side. Okay, and if this is getting dry and this is getting dry, which mine are close, I can go ahead and put this mountain in the background. Now, of course, you could dry brush this and have snow on the mountain, but that's not the objective of this particular lesson. So I'm just going to leave mine. I'm just going to paint it in. If you think you've gotten it a little dark, you can always take your tissue or your rag and dab it a little bit here and there. I think mine is a little dark, but we're not going to worry about it. It might be a little darker than I'd like. But remember, these are all personal choices. We're making decisions. What the painting really is a series of hundreds, probably thousands, who knows, of decisions that you, the artist, make. It's a collection of decisions that you made while your brush was moving or while you were thinking about it beforehand. Now see this blue, I put it all the way up, but if you do one, another one to practice, or if you like this drawing and do it again and again, which a lot of people do, you could leave some sky in there and some mountain lower down. I have it as though the mountain is creeping back up that side. While that's all drying, I'm going to go ahead and put in some rocks. Some rocks. Jean Legassi, an artist I really admire. She's an oil painter, and she had a video out, I don't know, a decade ago or so. I'm making my rocks just slightly on the dirty brown side. If you can see, oops, can you see the palette where I'm mixing here? And remember, I'm going to try and leave a little white highlight on the top. Jean Legassi, in her video that she did with a couple of other artists, it's really a cool video. I wish I had it handy. I'd give you the information. Maybe you can find it somewhere. I don't know if she's still making them or if you can still buy them. But I think I saw her on a PBS show. This was a PBS broadcast of three artists that went to Alaska, and they're painting mountains, and they paint some boats that are dry docked, things like that. And at one point, there is a scene. I'm just putting a few little odds and ends, starting to put some little movement here. You can put another rock if you want a darker one. You can just put some things in there. I have a nice light brownish color here. So I'm just putting, this part gets to be pretty dark. So I'm just putting in another layer of something in here. So anyway, in the video, she says, "Give me a rock," and I'm happy. Some people don't like to paint rocks, or they have fear of rocks. Rock fear, I guess. Personally, I agree with Jean. Rocks are fun. While that's working, I'm going to take a pretty small brush. This is a quick one again. I'm afraid my time is getting pretty limited to these currently, but hopefully it loosens up a little bit. See this? I've got a shadow on these two trees here. There's a shadow on the left side. I didn't paint anything in the white part. Remember, we're trying to make these kind of like an urban sketch. So I'm going to take some of that brown mixture that I just had mixed up. You can use that, or you can wet it with a little bit of blue, make it a bluish, a grayed off bluish shadow for these. I think they're aspens, we'll say. I intend them to be aspens. Okay, and we just put, that might be a little too dark. Let's make that a little lighter. Dab a little bit off, just give a little bit. Very difficult unless you have a very small brush. So you could, because I'm not a purist, as everybody who knows me will tell you, you could do this with a light pencil. You could do it. You can obviously do it with a very small brush. Just leave it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a perfect shadow. Even see how it wiggles there? It really works better if you don't make it a perfect straight line coming down. If you kind of wiggle it, because nature has some things, I wouldn't call them imperfection because nature is great the way it is. But typically there are things in the tree that move and undulate. They're not just straight, exact lines like with a ruler. Hmm. Is everybody kind of catching up to that one? I saw this thing online. I don't know what these are called. When you watch YouTube, there's these little things you can go down a rabbit hole on, and I really try to not go on rabbit holes. But I click on one every once in a while. They're not YouTubes, they're little short things. They're like a minute long. And this one, it says, "Good morning, LOL, trending memes." That's what this is, a meme. FYP shorts. So jokes. I don't know who puts these out. I don't know. Anyway, it says, "I asked my grandma if she ever gets lonely. And she said, I'm never lonely because I have four men in my life. I get up with Charlie Horse. I spend the day with Arthur Itis. I dine with Willpower. And I go to bed with Ben Gay." I, I just thought that was pretty cute. I don't know. May- Maybe not. Maybe it's too real to be cute, right? But pretty fun. Okay, things should be starting to get a little drier in here. We have these tree trunks here. We don't want these to be dead black, but you can do them dead dark or not. You know, it's not a big deal either way. Oh, I got a lot of wet blue there. Look at that. My gosh, what a bunch of paint. What was I thinking? And I'll get a little brown to mix in there. So now I have kind of a dark gray. If you want to make your tree trunks a little lighter, you can just make this material a little thinner. I am just going to now I'm taking, this is a liner. Here again, this is a number 2. You can do this with your pencil if you don't have a liner available, right? I'm making a little bit of a thicker one here and a little bit up here. Make that one kind of go somehow. A little bit wiggly here, little wiggle there. And maybe I'll put a cross branch there, and another one there. And I might put just a little bit of a branch in here. Okay, just a few little things. Who knows? Yours may come out better than mine. You may really have something there. While I have this little brush, no, I'm going to switch to this one. This is a number 2, just a round number 2 of the Princeton. Sad to say, I think our local art store is going to go out of business. I'm using this very dark color to make these aspen trees. I've seen them be kind of purplish. Sometimes they're kind of brownish. You can pretty much make it, whatever you want to make these dark spots in aspens. I guess it depends on where you are, what the environment is like. And you can see I'm just kind of randomly putting a few dots here and there. Because I've seen them different colors, and I don't understand. I imagine it's something to do with the earth. That I don't know if it's the earth, what the tree is eating, or if it's the weather. I just don't know. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and mix a little bit of blue. I've taken some of that blue out of there that I had, and I'll put some more blue. Now, I've got this light ultramarine. It's a tube of light that I was putting there, and it's really a little bright, I think. I'm not sure it's proper for this, but what you want to do is skip some spaces, leave some white as you put this water in here, okay? And it's probably a lot lighter to the back here than it is up here in the foreground. So I'm going to try to have some pretty thin, let's test that color. It's a little dark there. I'll put some of it over here to get it off my brush, right? And then I will come back here. Now this, you can leave a lot of white around these little stones, and that will give you some, I intend to come back with Chinese white watercolor to give the frothy look, the bubbling effect. But you can just leave it indicated like that if you want to. And I'm putting some more, cleaning my brush, putting a little dampness, and I'm coming back in to take some of this material up this way because it's just way too dark for what I want in this area, okay? I want that to have some reflection there. And I might take some out of here and there to make it lighter here, darker there, kind of thing, okay? And then we'll continue on. I'm going to leave a little bit around that rock there, but I'm coming in here. Remember, when you're urban sketching, you want to capture it, but a lot of times you have 2 hours, and a lot of times that includes talking to the person next to you and getting set up, you know, and mixing your paints and the whole thing. So you move kind of quickly is the point, and it's always on a different subject. It may not be something you're really accustomed to doing, that subject. So you try to get the essence of the thing. You try to show what's there, but you also want it, at least in my view, I like them loose. Urban Sketchers is a place that accepts anybody who comes, beginner or professional, architect, or never have drawn a plant or a planter. So everybody, it's a really cool. I love urban sketches. It's really cool. Um, but that said, I like to leave them a little loose. I like them to look not accidental, but not too perfect. Okay, so we've got a base, kind of a light blue down on the little stream here, right? Going to go ahead, put some more green in this yellowy green that I made. And might start touching with a little bit of blue. I'm going to make this tree considerably darker than the other tree, but not quite that dark. So I'm going to thin this out as I go up here. I'm going to stay kind of in the lines. You certainly don't have to, right? It is kind of odd that this tree is got foliage and those other trees kind of barely do. I guess it's that time of year, huh? Some do and some don't. And I'm going to come back pull a little bit of this material out maybe here and there so that it's not just a straight line across, right? Maybe I'll pull some out there. Get rid of some of these little white dots. And I'm going to put in just a few random loose, things that were little speckles. Maybe there'll be one or two over there, maybe here. Another thing that you can do that makes it a little bit of interest, I'm taking just a touch of yellow ochre and put a little bit of yellow ochre here and there. Give this tree some color. The tree has got more than just plain green in it. Or trees. It looks kind of bushy trees, short, scrubby things. My grass has gotten pretty dry. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take a little bit of this blue up my little shadow color. You're going to have to make yours whatever color you want. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I'll turn that off for a second. I'll get a little bit of this grayish on here. And you can make it a blue gray if you want. You can make it a green gray. We're going to start putting some pretty darks in under these trees here, like this. I'm just putting some little darks in here. And maybe with this one, I'm going to go ahead and stretch it so that, say that the sun is coming this way and the shadow is coming all the way down to the stream there. And we'll put a little bit of shadow. These things are not just don't do straight lines, just kind of put a little something in there. On the darkest of this, you can put a couple areas here where it's the darkest. Okay. There's little dark spots in there to start getting it darker. Okay, well that's drying up. The There is kind of a ridge in the green in the river. See right here, there's kind of a ridge. This one bled in, but it's kind of like the thing turns over and goes down to the water, maybe just a foot deep or something like that. You don't have to put it on both sides like I did, but I'll show you what I mean. You can be creative with this, put it in some areas, and some not. I'm going to take a little blue, put it in my green here, but not too dark. I'm not going to start off with a very dark one. Wow, that's pretty dark for not being dark. Putting a little bit of a ridge. Yeah, I'm afraid that's much darker than I wanted. So I'm going to take some of that material out of there. Get a little bit of water on my brush every time and just kind of soaking that up here. The phone was my wife calling me, telling me she's on her way. I'm sure that's what that was. Going to put a little bit of a ridge in here. We can't see this whole thing, so I think it'd be best if you don't put a ridge on all of it. You can. I've got a damp brush again, just kind of moving it back a little bit. Okay. While your ridge is drying, see the water's getting pretty dry too, and we could do some of that. You want to take another layer of your blue and just, you don't want to put it all over again. Here we go again. We'll put just a spot here and there. You're just making some areas that are a little darker where the water's a little deeper there than it is in other areas, right? So it's only one value shift. It's not like a big, you don't want it a lot deeper. You don't want it a lot different. And I'm coming right in along this edge. I just made it green because it's kind of dark right where the water, there's vegetation and probably the fish live under there. It's kind of dark under there, where the little guppies swim around and hide. Maybe a little bit of that darkness on this side. And a little more, little dark right on the bottom of the rock, right there wherever the two rocks meet. A little darker. Should be a song like that. A little darker. All my little darkers are drying up. I'm putting quite a bit of water in my green mix over here, making it kind of thin. I'm going to add some areas where there could be like the hill turns down a little bit, so it's getting a little shadow in that area. I might put another layer of dark here. I kind of want this area dark and a little movement over here to keep your eye on the subject, over here to the left. I'll put a little bit here. You don't have to, here again, you don't have to make yours just like mine. You can make yours however you want. You can leave them with crisp edges like this, or you could have a lost edge. Clean your brush. I'm cleaning it off, wiping it on the towel, and softening the edges. Just so you have some movement, right? think I'll come back with just a little bit more on the bottom side of this tree so that it's just slightly darker, kind of shadowy down here. While that's all going on, as though we didn't have enough, or yes, as though we didn't have enough, I'm going to take some yellow ochre. I put in a little cad yellow with mine, but you don't need to. You can just use yellow ochre or cad yellow, or this is a liner again. And I'm just adding a little color to my. Remember, the things that are in the distance are much smaller, so they're just an indication, right? That doesn't really look quite right there. And we can come, I'm going to take a little burnt sienna, the dark or the lighter of the two browns that I recommend. Throw a little bit of that in here every once in a while, just to while everything else is drying up. Let's see if this is drying up yet. Not quite. I'm going to hope that it's close. These trees, these aspen trees, I have a little squiggly. This is probably better done. It's too small to do really nice ones with this, with the brush. You can probably do yours with your pencil or with a fountain pen. Just putting some branches out there. Going to just touch, doing a lot of things here, and I know I'm going quickly, but you can pause the video. I'm just putting little touches in here, make it, the rocks have some more texture. And I think I'll put a little bit of shadow under this one. Maybe on the side here, like, the sun is coming this way. Here, just because I can, I'm going to add some little, I've got cadmium yellow flakes here and there. Like this one is really just starting to turn. I'm going to come with just a little bit more of this blue, just so that there's more play in some areas. And I can soften some of this up a little bit. Go ahead and try one with my fountain pen here. Put a little bit of a branch coming through this one, because some of these get pretty. There we go. Little branch coming out there. How about off of this one? I had one here, but I'll continue it. Even though my tree is still a little wet, maybe I can put a little one here coming down. I don't want to put a signature in there yet because I might just put just another one more. You don't need to do this one. I'm going to do this one. You can see if you think you need it. I'm going to put a very thin wash in here just for movement in the thing. Not sure that one's quite correct because there you go. The river has to go through there, or the creek does. The little creek. Creek. Of course, that depends on where you are. Here in New Mexico, we're running out of water, so that could be a Russian river. When you try this again, you can make this wavier if you want. You know, there's a lot of things you can do with this. This is just an opportunity for you to see some possibilities here. I am going to, because I have some Chinese white, I'm going to put some Chinese white as though it was coming around there. I'm going to reshape some of the white areas that I left to make them slightly more believable. I'm putting on pretty thick. Chinese white is a color that when it dries, it really has a lot less value in it. You can barely see it. So I'm putting it on fairly thick. I'll go ahead and put a my name that comes to mind is Bobby Fischer instead of John Hancock. Mary Lou Henner. Well, maybe that's not right. At least not for me. All right, folks. Another quickie. Short and sweet. Practice your water. Practice your composition. Move this tree or put another one way out here, a couple little trees, that are way off in the distance. I might try one that way myself next time. Folks, I'm sorry, my time is up. I've got to run today. It's a short one. So let me, I'll just say, stay safe, stay happy, but keep sketching. Taken 2 hours to do a painting with some friends and forget the political situation that we're in. Just enjoy yourselves. All right. See you next time.